important thing. Okay. Now we continue in concluding the chapter in today's teachings. So when you rage against yourself, against the evil impulse that we have, to try to humble it, not allow it to control me, and allow its foolishness to enter and become my reality. So the question is, why would raging or speaking to the negative side help? Why wouldn't it be just sufficient to try to lift your good side up? What's the, in today's modern world, you can't speak bad about anybody or anything. I'm not suggesting we should. And we're not suggesting here, well, we do. We're raging against the evil impulse. Right? Okay, not at anybody else, of course not. We're not judging anybody here. But why not just pick up the good side? Why do we have to put down the negative side? So the Alter Rebbe is going to explain a very interesting idea here. Very interesting. And the truth is, as long as if you are dirty and don't clean yourself from the dirt, you're stained. You're dirty. Does that mean you can't do good? Yeah, you could do good, but it's not the same kind of good when you take away the stain. So we need to deal with the negative side, alongside with doing good, of course. So what are we dealing with? Why is it dealing with the negative side? It's important because sumira, go away from bad, evil, vasitip, and do good. So there's an order. Now, that again, not to suggest that we shouldn't be doing good at all times, of course. But we have to deal with that negative side. So Alter Rebbe says here something phenomenal. Why is it going to work that when you can rage against the negative side, when you can tell it how despicable it is, and hey, let go. Let go and let God, right? So the reason why you can humble the negative side, and that it is effective in crushing it, is because the truth, the negative side, has no real substance to it. It's siter acher. It's the other side. It's compared to darkness. Darkness has no real substance to it. It's automatically banished when you turn on the light. It's got no real substance. What does that mean? Well, what do you mean it has no substance? I don't know, that urge feels real strong within me, right? For negativity. So the Alter Rebbe explains, because siter acher, klipa, the other side, the shell, is not a equal force on the other side. You got the Godhead, divine, and then you have the other side, negativity, and there's a battle between them. Okay, God ultimately is stronger, so he'll overcome, right? Good is better than evil, and that's all the cowboys and Indians. Maybe I shouldn't say that. The good guys and the bad guys, whoever they are, right? In their battle, and the good guys come out on top. That's wrong. There's no two forces. There's only one God. And that one God, from the divine source, gives power to klipa and siter acher, to the negative force. He gives it the power. So it has no power of its own. It's not a reality of its own. Nothing at all. It's only that God gives it its power. And why is he giving it a power to do anything? It's only in order to raise its ugly head, in order to become a force against us, so that we should subdue it, that we should humble it, we should not allow it to control us. But in fact, it has no power of its own. It's coming from the divine, from God's holiness, ultimately. So it appears to be powerful, but it's a mirage, because it's no power of its own. And therefore, it can be nullified and banished simply by raging at it, simply by understanding and knowing that the negative impulse within me is not true, is not reality. It is a force, of course. It's not like, it's not an impulse within me, but it doesn't, its whole vitality is only from the divine. Its only reality is in order to obscure God's presence for me, God's truth, to make me lose my moral compass, so then I could just seek a pleasure-seeking life, to be served rather than serve. That's all it's doing. So when I realize it's a mirage, it's nothing. It's an illusion, ultimately. It's smoke screens. I'm not going to give it a reality. I'm not going to make it. I'm going to deprive it of its power. I'm going to withdraw its authority. How? By raging against it. You're nothing. Despicable. You're not the truth. You're trying to obscure the truth. I got you, game. That's amazing. What a power that is to recognize that. But this, the Alter Rebbe says, is an amazing thing. We see this, how it's expressed in a story that we're all familiar with, I'm sure. The 12 spies that Moshe Rabbeinu sent to spy out the land of Israel. They came back with a report, oh boy, that the entire Jewish people bought into. Or for the most part, not entire, but not the tribe of Levi, but everybody else bought into. The what? That the enemy is stronger than we. And our sages said, don't say stronger than we, but stronger than he, than God. Meaning they lost their faith in God's ability to bring them into the Holy Land. They lost their faith. But afterwards, they reversed themselves and announced, we are ready to go up and conquer the land. What happened? Why'd they change their mind so quickly? Moshe Rabbeinu didn't show any miracles of God, or God didn't show any miracles that, we see God, you could do it. No miracles. You know what happened? Moshe related to the Jewish people, God's very angry with you. He raged against them. And you know what that did? It removed the delusion. It removed the veil. It removed the smoke screen that they had, that they thought, God couldn't do it. In other words, they are true believers. We're all true believers. Ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim, as it says. The Jewish people are believers, the children and the descendants of believers. The fact that we profess at any moment a lack of faith is only because the Siter Acher, the negative force in the person that is in their animal soul, has risen against the light of the holiness of our divine soul. In its arrogance, it's doing that to make it delusional to me, to lose the focus of my divine soul. And therefore, by God becoming angry with them, thunderingly angry at them, what did that do? It humbled the animal soul and its haughtiness, brought down that hot air that was full of nothing, smoke screens, reduced it, humbled it, crushed it, that then the Jews just came back to their true belief. Yeah, we'll go up. Of course God's going to take care of things. They're ready. Nothing had to be shown to them. Nothing had to be proven. Because in their heart of hearts, in their soul, they know that they believe that God is capable of defeating the Canaanite nations and bringing them to triumph. But when the animal soul obscures things, then with empty words of the Sitra Achar, of the other side, raises itself against the divine soul, it appears to be truth until it is humbled. So by God being angry, at the Jewish people, what that did was humble that negative side. That's powerful. Furthermore, says the Alter Rebbe in conclusion, he says that the Sitra Achar actually entertains no doubts about the faith itself. It's merely granted permission to deny God's sovereignty. It's been granted that only in order that we should be richly rewarded. What are we rewarded with? The fact that we, through our efforts, recognize the truth. That the evil impulse that I have within me is not the truth, not the reality, and my connection to God and what God needs from me, wants from me, is the truth, is my reality. And similar to a harlot who attempts to seduce the king's son through falsehood and deceit, with the king's approval, as the Holy Zohar gives as a parable. Now, in this metaphor, there's two levels of the metaphor. The source of the animal soul in the divine realm of things is like the original harlot who's given the mission by the king to seduce the crown prince. So the king is God, the harlot is the source of the evil impulse in us, of the animal soul above, and the king's, the prince, is of course us. Now, that the evil impulse, the way it is in its root source, is recognizing God, and will only do what God wants. But the harlot now hires another harlot, who hires another harlot, who hires another harlot, who it's so far down the line that finally the way it comes into me, my evil impulse, it doesn't know God. It just knows what it wants. And it wants what it wants. It's not there to fulfill the godly mission, because it's been hired, rehired, and rehired as a metaphor, that it doesn't recognize who hired it, the king. Because the king didn't. It was, a few generations or a few removed. And that's the way it is within us. So the evil impulse within us doesn't recognize that it's only being given permission. The root source of our evil impulse, as it was given above, recognizes and is only going to do and fulfill based on what the king wants. So within us, we have to know that it's truly negative force. It's truly despicable, right? And the only reason we have this is in order that we should find our own way. We're not angels. We're not meant to be angels. Angels have no choice. We have a choice. And through that choice, we become ultimately partners with God. We are the ultimate purpose. Not angels. Not the trees or the animal kingdom. but you and I. So when we recognize that this force is a negative force that has no true reality, because it's only ultimately that God gives it its vitality. And the only reason he gives it the vitality is to obscure the truth from me so I could find it. And sometimes the way to find it is to rage against that negativity within me in order to humble my evil impulse and not allow it to have the control that it does. Powerful. I know now that. First part of was raging. Second part is why the rage works. And in that, we had a proof from the spies. Who could share? Who could come online? Who could, a new face perhaps, although to share, that would be amazing. Lisa says, I know now that I'm capable of beating down the animal soul. God gave me the animal soul along with the divine soul, and she is more capable of humbling my animal soul. Absolutely, very good. Genia, I know now that it is insufficient to uplift positive side in order to do real good. We need to subdue negativity as it has no real substance. Excellent. Linda, I know now that the rage against my animal soul with its foolishness and negativity, to stop it from controlling me, especially to have the clarity to see that there is oneness and unity with God. The animal soul has no power of its own. It is a force with no true reality except to obscure God's truth. It can be nullified and banished. Excellent, excellent. You guys are amazing. Eric, I know now that I have to crush the evil inclination and rage if need be, because there is no real power in it. Very good. Irma, I know now that I must rage against the animal soul, the evil intent, not to allow it to control me as it is compared to darkness, to help the divine soul. So our effort to recognize the truth and find our way by raging against the negativity within me. Fantastic. Erica or Diane, Stan. DDD. Who was able to come on? Andrew. Virginia. All right. Thank you, folks, for sharing. Reminder tonight, Torah studies. You can find it on Chabad ZK on Facebook, or if you come on Zoom, I can share with you. Please private message me. Okay, Erica, sure. Thank you. Oh, we have Erica with us from Norway. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
please share with us something.
I was wondering, when we're talking about the animal soul and the godly soul, like our true personality, is it like a mixture of that, or
Excellent question.
or
Excellent question. We're in the middle of this. So it's a progression. Um, you know, right now where we're at is, since what we're trying to do, remember, we have to keep everything in the proper context, and the context over here is that we're trying to humble the negative side, because sometimes we have a heart of stone. Sometimes we just don't have the spark, right? In the hop, skip, and a jump in our step, and we're kind of weighed down, and that being weighed down is not something we are allowed to be. So we need to deal with it, right? And sometimes you just can't go and be full of joy, which is necessary, which we're going to get there. So what do you need to do? Sometimes you need to, as we spoke today, you speak to our negative side, or in this case, rage against it even, in order to humble it. Because in the end, it really isn't a true reality, that negative side. But it is something that is of me that I need to deal with. Where we're going to go with this is that we should identify with a greater truth of me, a deeper, more profound, real truth of me. But that's where we're going. We're not there yet. We still have another chapter of dealing with negativity, and then from there we can deal with the positive. So what's important over here is that we recognize there is the evil impulse within us. It is truly there in order to obscure the truth of me, the reality, the deeper truth of me that I want to reveal. And this is at times not allowing that to reveal, and therefore I want to humble it so I could reveal a deeper part of me, of the divine soul, which is ultimately we want to go. And with that, we'll have true joy. But we're going in that direction. But excellent question, because right now where we're at, so it sounds like, we said that's, my first responder is my animal soul, and that evil impulse we all are familiar with. So that is a part of me. We're not righteous, so we didn't, transform it 100%. And therefore we gotta deal with it, and that's what we're dealing with right now. But this is only a temporary place. It's not the permanent place we want to deal with. We shouldn't be constantly raging at our negative side to humble it. We need to do it from time to time. That's not where we want to be. We want to be full of joy, right?
It's like a peaceful.
Sorry.
Like a sort of peaceful sort of level, yeah, instead of having to fight.
Yeah, I'm peaceful. I'm not. I don't know if peaceful. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if peaceful's. Peaceful is joyful. But joyful is an effort. Joyful is a mindset, right? It's a disposition. So it takes work. So how do we get there? Is first of all understanding the negative side within me and trying to humble it as best as I can, that I then from there can come to a joyful disposition that's going to be able to be more permanent, right? It's going to be much more my, reality. That's where we want to go. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming on. God bless you.
God bless you too, Rabbi, and everyone else.
Amen.
Thank you.
All the best. All right. Thank you. To Erica. Hashem. All right. So tomorrow's another day for more further engagement in Tanya. We're going to further with this part. In the meantime, have a wonderful day. Please share the Alter Rebbe's teachings with others. A reminder that please go onto YouTube to Tanya Rabbi and subscribe there. Furthermore, please join us tonight, Torah studies. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zuch HaKodesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a wonderful day.